first chapter, we discussed that there are 4 factors. The subject is the seeker of a knowledge of reality. The second factor is an instrument of knowledge, that is Eastern wisdom. The third factor is the object of knowledge. What is that object of knowledge? Is my true nature, which is of the nature of permanent peace and happiness, love and wisdom. And the fourth factor is the result. So when we choose any goal, any goal in our life or goal of life, then we should also know how to work on that goal of life. Simple. So while working on the goal of life, we meet many challenges, obstacles, problems, and we also meet many opportunities. That happens in our every day-to-day life. I'm coming to your house, driving, so I find many red lights, or I don't find it. So when I choose any goal in my life or goal of life, whatever it is, goal, so then I should know how to work on that goal. And while working on the goal, many challenges. So, how to meet those challenges, especially in the journey of self-discovery, including meditation? One aspect, one question. So, we can answer that question in 2 ways. I know it, I have understood it, I can succeed in it. I come out of that meditation and I forget everything. This is one way that we learn from hit and trial method, provided the goal is very much clear and I apply the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. What if the second option is that, what if I already prepare myself much before how I become a seeker? Now, when I become a seeker, almost I am prepared. Highest level of the seeker always succeeds in meditation. Middle level of the seeker, yes, he finds lot of challenges and he knows intellectually how to meet those challenges. He has undergone the process of becoming a seeker. He forgets how to work on the goal and he remembers again. And then the low level and the worst seeker. Low level of the seeker and the worst. Third and the fourth level of the seeker are not qualified seeker. So in the second chapter, we should reflect upon becoming a seeker to begin practice from Samadhi Pada. So, why we have taken up this subject? Ath Yoga Nushashanam. Ath has two meanings. Now you are a qualified seeker. Patanjali says, let us start our journey of meditation. So that we are going to answer. And the second answer, that what exactly is the very process which we normally say sadhana. Sadhana we translate literally as a practice. And no, I'm doing practice. How many years? 20 years. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm still doing the practice. So, how to work on the goal must be clearly answered, understood. There must be a clarity and a conviction in the mind, and then the real Samadhi Pada will begin. So, in the section 2 or the chapter 2, Eastern wisdom and its method to discover the true nature. So, I cited one example, that chemistry, but I have to understand the terms in the chemistry. What capital H stands for? It stands for hydrogen, O stands for oxygen, S stands for sulfur, and H2O stands for water, like this. So I understand the term. The moment I understand the term, the journey of learning chemistry begins. Now, see one example the Patanjali uses, and most of the masters of Eastern wisdom uses the chitta, the word chitta for the mind. I can cite many examples. So when chitta word is used, sometime Patanjali uses the chitta for the mind. In other sutra, he uses it for intellect. Third, he uses for ego. Unless I understand it clearly what chitta refers to as a term, it will make a sense. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha will undergo many words like this. So, terminology, the words, that is very important. But like in path of the knowledge, the mind is understood as structurally it is one, but functionally it is four: mind, memory, intellect, ego. So they are in two pairs: the mind and the memory, intellect and the ego. So now, once I understand, there is a clarity about the word chitta, I can immediately understand the very verse of that sutra. But before going to the sutra, we should have a little bit of clarity about what exactly is Eastern wisdom. So, first, it is very clear to all of us Eastern wisdom. We have more than 3,000 texts, 3,000 teachers. And every teacher has written about the same fundamentals differently to personalize the teaching. So, like science, not a single scientist is the author of the science. Not a single master is the author of all the principles of Eastern wisdom. Now, Eastern wisdom focus on to know clearly what I am and what I am not. So, from my head in the intellect and at the level of my experience, I realize who I am and who am I not. I can face the challenges with a smile, with a patience, with a commitment in the journey of a self discovery. For example, ignorance is the cause of the suffering, pain, problem, reaction, challenges. Entering into the mind in relationship to the world outside. Now the intellect has a clarity about it. I am sitting in meditation, the body causes some challenges to me. The moment I awaken to the fact that I am not the body, what will happen to my problem? Gone. Or minimized. Or the impact of that challenges caused by the body will be minimized. So we'll also understand that part is known as austerity and a penance. Eastern wisdom principles. How to work towards the goal, how to prepare towards that goal. First step is the subject, the seeker. And if the person is not a seeker, what will happen? Distracted, wandering. Even after 20 years of practice, nothing happens. So there is a catch here. The entire Eastern wisdom is known as darshan, not philosophy. Darshan means perception, the right perception, the knowledge of the truth. That is how we understand the philosophy. We have covered the 6 organs, orthodox system, and 4 unorthodox organs, systems, method, process to attain to reach to the state of self discovery. Every system has its own approach. For what? For darshan. So we'll go a little deeper. What is this darshan? So that darshan by which we know our true nature, who knows it? The self knows the self by itself is darshan, is direct perception, is the direct knowledge. I know you through my eyes, through my mind, through the concept. What is the concept? Oh, here is Casey. So Casey is a concept. It is the name and the form. Then another concept. Casey is a woman. And then what she does all moves through the concept in the mind without the, but with the sense organ, I see the name, the form, and the color. That is known as indirect perception. Meditation reveals the knowledge of the self. How? By the self. So, what it means? The mind should not have any concept. Answer is no. So, how the Patanjali defines yoga? Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. That becomes darshan. See that. So, my mind has to be clear that how to work towards goal. Goal is to succeed in meditation. Meditation reveals the knowledge of the reality. Oh, that is why it is known as darshan. Here is a catch. The self knows the self by itself. I want to know if the sun is there outside or not. So let me light a candle and go outside to see if the sun is there or not. It will not work. Sun not only lightens every object, but it also lightens itself. It is the self-aware force. Similarly, the self is, the real self is also the self luminous that we covered in the last section. That it means the self is looking at the self is knowing the self, it is a direct perception, and it is known as darshan. Why we say darshan? There is another catch here. And once our mind and the intellect, through regular contemplation and reflection, brings the clarity and a conviction in the intellect, meditation becomes a play and a fun. You may add this thing also, I don't know where to add. So, what is that? The mind and the intellect knows anything when the object becomes the object in the mind. The moment any object is there in the mind, it becomes a concept. The mind and intellect understands everything as a concept. Where is my house is a concept. You are a woman, concept. I'm a man, concept. We are meeting together, it is a concept. What about this self? Self is beyond the concept. Whether I think I am or whether I don't think I am, that I am still exists. Even when I say as a concept, I do not exist, the master asked, who says this? Who is saying this? I am saying this. Hold on. Don't think. Are you not there? I am there. That gives the fascinating aspect of the Eastern wisdom. Eastern wisdom is nothing but a darshan. Darshan means right knowledge, right perception, direct perception, whatever you want to say it. So now once we have understood that part, now we say, as we have discussed, can I know beforehand what will be the challenges, how to work on those challenges? I'm already prepared. Like I go on vacation, pack the luggage of essential things. Oh, I missed one thing. So I can manage, but I'm prepared beforehand. So that preparation is known as understanding the four fundamental questions in the light of darshan. Why I'm going for meditation? Why I'm going for self-discovery? Why? Why I'm going for self-discovery? Because I'm not able to reach to the permanent peace and happiness, my I alternate between pain, pleasure, likes, dislikes, duality, conflict. Repeat pleasure minimizes my state of happiness. My mind constantly changes the objects and the people. What is this? Is it not the suffering? So the word is used as a heya. It is a very old concept which has been summarized as four noble truths by Buddha. So it is known by the 4H. Heya, Hetu, sometimes Heya, and then we say Heya Hetu, Han, Hanopaya. Four words, and that convey the deeper essence. Should I know, in order to become a seeker, what is suffering that needs to be rejected or eliminated? So, if I understand the nature of the sorrow, suffering, and pain, then I am prepared. And when I am prepared and I walk through with the patience and commitment, the word is used as austerity, penance. Penance is not that I should go to the Himalayas and sit inside the cave. That's a wrong perception, wrong notion. I asked my master, I love orange colored, this robe, can I get it? He said, the very first condition that you can be with me, that I will not allow you to wear any orange colored robe. This is the highest wisdom. But I asked you are wearing it. I was totally ignorant at the age of 12 years. What my master said, I did it. Now I'm keeping it. So there was no clarity of understanding. There is no clarity of this knowledge. I moved with the wrong notion. Now everything is right inside, so I keep it. So, first is what is suffering that needs to be rejected or eliminated. Second is hetu. Hetu means the cause. What is the cause of the suffering? Once I understand the cause of the suffering, I get some revelation. So I will cover that. So if I understand the cause of the suffering, from what is that origin? What are the reasons of the suffering? You can add into the chapter if it is required. So, what we see? Avidya, ignorance, is the cause of suffering. But I don't understand. I have not written that part. I remember that's a very important. It was explained by one of the great masters. I never spoke about that master. His name is Sureshwaracharya. First, he was a devout Buddhist. So I'll give you some reference that you can add also, that is very important. So his name was Mandan Mishra. Fortunately, native state belonged to my native state of Bihar. A great, liberated, enlightened master. And in the he was contemporary of Shankaracharya, who was also a great master. So in those days, there used to be Shastrarth, meaning the essence of the principles of Eastern wisdom written in a particular text or with reference to a particular fundament. That is the label, but what happens? The modern authors translate Shastrarth as debate. So in debate, you are in favor and against. But what is the Shastrarth? Here is the principle. Now we both will approach to the same principle based on my realization and my experiences. So who is going to win? Who has a subtler level of experiences? Who has a higher level? So Shankara won that Shastrarth. I don't want to say debate, but for the sake of understanding, I'm saying debate. And ultimately, what happens in those days? When you have not reached to a state of consciousness which your opponent has reached, you simply accept him as your master who guides you on the path. So Mandan Mishra was guided on the path and named as Sureshwaracharya. He wrote a book. And what he says about avidya. Why he wrote a book? Because his master told him to write a book. Why? To narrate your experiences. You write for yourself. So now he says, avidya. Because of avidya, because of ignorance, the mind lives with the duality and a division. The real self in you and me is essentially one. The water is one in two waves. I don't see that. So mind lives with the duality and a division. So, what is the first effect of avidya? Duality, division. And this duality and division is also a matter of convenience, but also a matter of conflict and confusion and a wrong notion. He explained it beautifully. Okay, I can see that. Do you see that duality in the word, or what we say the word of plurality, duality, division, conflict? Do I see that? No, I'm so much heavily conditioned by the mind to accept this as if everything is right, created by the wrong notion. The moment the mind lives in that duality, by default it creates likes and dislikes. So, likes, cause of likes and dislikes is this duality. The cause of the duality is ignorance. We are understanding what is the cause of suffering. The one word we normally say avidya. So from avidya comes the duality. From the duality comes the likes and dislikes. The moment I have likes and dislikes, and I'm constant, my mind is habitually, unconsciously thinking about likes and dislikes. Even sometime we have thoughts we never wanted, but still it comes. So because of likes and dislikes, the mind creates a sense of attachment and detachment. So, cause of attachment and detachment is like and dislike. Cause of likes and dislikes is duality. Cause of duality is ignorance. I'm non dual, pure consciousness, my true nature, but I don't see it. I see the duality. From the duality, likes and dislikes. From the likes and dislikes, the attachment and detachment. Now, from the attachment and detachment, what comes? Karmani. Sureshwaracharya explains, it is because of the deep sense of attachment and detachment, my mind engages me into the Rajasic Guna. I start performing karma. Otherwise, there is no reason for doing karma. I may give 100 of reasons for my attachment and detachment or for my karma. After all, I have to work for the world. I'm the savior of the world. I could not save myself, so I start doing a social service for others. And I continue to live into that problem and the challenges. Anyhow, avidya, duality, likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, karma. Karma by nature is defective, and it has only the two possible options, pain and the pleasure. But what happens? Here, the Sureshwaracharya takes us into another direction. It is because of continuous karma, and the karma has a fruits reserved, either profit, loss, victory, defeat. So I need a body. So because of this karma, the body is created. And when the body is created and first five causes of ignorance continues, then for all practical purposes, my mind and intellect says that I am the body. And as long as I am the body, I will have another birth and the death and the birth and the death. So, because this is the cause of the suffering, why we meditate to bring an end to all the six factors of the cause of suffering. Han, the third, He, Hetu, Han, Hanopaya. What is Han? Oh, there is a state to that is totally absence of suffering. Can I say it objectless state of the mind? Can I say the state of nothingness? Can I say the state of emptiness? So emptiness with reference to these six chain of the suffering. Or otherwise we can say the meditation awakens to me the real nature. There is a darshan, direct perception, or paruksha anubhuti, and I discover the permanent peace, happiness, love. Then there is a way, hanupaya, to reach to that absence as the state of absence of suffering. There is a method, there is a principle, there is a practice. That is what is all about Patanjali first chapter. Now always contemplate on this, the next topic, the four fundamental questions explained by Patanjali in the second sutra. Because if we have the basic foundation, then I can easily understand. The moment I say yogaschitta vritti nirodha, so what is yoga? Hanopaya means method and practices. What is chitta? The mind itself is suffering. What is the cause of suffering? The different thought pattern. That is what Patanjali explains. In the Samadhi Pada, there are five objective states of the mind. Pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smriti vrataya panchataya klesha klishta klishta, klishta. So what he says, there are all the thought pattern can be divided into five categories. They are painful or non-painful. They are the cause of the suffering, hetu. And what is the state? Nirodha. Nirodha also means emptiness. Nirodha means objectless state. Can I keep that essence of this sutra in my mind all the time? What will happen? Thought pattern causes any trouble, I realize I have to drop it. Oh, it enters into the chitta. So actually, the mind is the problem. So let mind you change. Let me work on the mind rather than I work on the mind. Briefly, I explained and identified the four noble truths with the second sutra. Can we say the second sutra is the entire summary of all the four chapters of Patanjali? So we have to dig little deeper. How, where, when Patanjali uses these four words. So then it will be clear. So these four words are used in different chapters, at different places, and he has done it rightly. But we may ask, why he has not said this. The first chapter is for the qualified seeker who has already gone through these terms. He understands. So when Patanjali uses, I study a particular sutra, I know why he is using. See that? That is the right approach to study Patanjali Yoga Sutra or any complete text. So now see where he used heyam. Heyam means suffering. We have already covered. So Patanjali says heyam dukham anagatam. I think we have covered in youth yoga teachers training also. I discussed about it. That heyam dukham anagatam. Yoga can avoid or eliminate sorrow and the suffering in the future, including future birth and the death. Heyam. So he used the word heyam. He says suffering is there, but if you practice yoga, means if you practice mindfulness or meditation, according to the commentator, it can eliminate sorrow and the suffering, not only in the present life, but also in the future life. In the present life, he uses the not with him, but without him. Samadhi Bhavanarth, second chapter, second sutra. He says, you can absorb into deeper meditation and minimize the impact of suffering by regular practice of will, tapa, self-study, contemplation, and Ishwar Pranidhanani, have a tremendous faith in the existence. So we are covering this Heya, Hetu, Han, Haya. So we have covered Heya. So Patanjali beautifully covers in a very softer and a gentle manner. You see that, do you want to get rid of the future suffering? Not in the future birth, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Come on, practice. What is the cause? The thought pattern. Why the thought pattern is there? Sureshwaracharya series. Avidya, ignorance, duality, and divisions. Just think of it. If Casey is the name of every individual on earth, we will save our mind from a lot of craziness. We know it, we will never forget. See the duality in individual. Just one, by remembering the name, is a big problem. So now coming to Hetu, the cause of the suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Drashtu drashyayo sanyogo heya hetu. The cause is identification of seer with the seen. What is seen? The objective world. What is mind is the seen. But mind claims, I am the body, I am the mind, I am constantly identifying myself with what I am not. That is the ignorance. That is the cause of the suffering. So, here, from because of the ignorance, there is an identification. And that identification, you can say the third and the fourth stage, fifth stage. What is that? Ignorance first, duality second, likes and dislikes third. Now begins the identification. Likes, dislikes, likes, dislikes. So I don't identify with what I don't like. So still it is an identification. It is an identification. See that? And what I like, I identify. My mind constantly thinks attachment and detachment. Identification becomes strong, but I want to achieve through my karma. I do action. So, in order to perform the action, my mind is now totally happy that I am the master now. You cannot be. Do you see that? Drash Drashtu drishyayo sanyogo heya hetu. So, cause of that suffering. So, Patanjali is making us understand what happens in our daily life activities. I'm your husband. Why don't you listen to me? Identification is the problem. You are 100% wrong. You are already wrong because you identify yourself as a husband. You may prove that you are right or wrong. It doesn't make any difference. One example, and you can give millions of examples in the world. Why? Can you make out duality? From where the duality? Avidya, ignorance. So Patanjali has made his sutras very easy. Now in the next sutra, you see that cause tasya hetur avidya. So he is also explaining another hetu. So identification, why the identification comes? Because of the duality. And what is the cause of the duality? It is avidya. It is ignorance. So he further confirms in the second chapter, tasya hetur avidya. Tasya hetu avidya. And we have already understood the six chain reaction, continuous birth and death. So why we are answering this? How to work on this path, how to work towards the goal. So I should know the challenges. No, I'm not coming to your house, in the afternoon. It's just too much of rush there. See that. So Patanjali is explaining in a very simple way. The cause of identification is ignorance. Then he says, what about Hanam? What is that absence of all the suffering? When you drop the ignorance, what is going to happen? Ah, such a beautiful verse, explained again in the second chapter. Tadbhavat sanyogo sanyoga bhavohanam tadadrashe kaivalyam. So he is explaining what happens in the state of meditation, the real state of meditation. What is that? In that state of meditation, the seer and the seen are separated after removal of ignorance that leads to Kaivalya. Kaivalya is a liberation or awakening. So that is why he explained Hetu, cause. What is the cause? Cause is identification. Because he has to bring this sutra for clarity. So now he is answering in the state of meditation, that identification is broken. And the moment it is broken, the ignorance is removed. The moment the ignorance is removed, the chain reaction drops. Chain reaction drops. Kaivalya. What, what is that? Only one thing that remains, that is the meaning of Kaivalya. Only the self remains. So, in that state, when the same self goes through the mind, intellect, sense organ, looks at you, it sees the same self. The self is there. Identification is broken. When we understand that, why, while working, I have clarity of goal. I must succeed in meditation. Why? Because knowledge of the reality dawns in meditation. Okay. So the second question is how to work towards the goal. What are the essentials required? Clarity of understanding. These principles are required. So when these principles are absorbed, understood by our mind and intellect, the mind and intellect undergoes a tremendous change, followed by the fourfold practices that we will talk later. Now, you see, every master says the same thing. It does not mean that this is the only factor. So, what is the way? So you have given a solution that when I break the identification between the seer and seen, awakening takes place. But what is the method? What is the process? And the Patanjali answers in another sutra that you see, Viveka khyate viplavahanupaya. The settling of viveka in the mind and intellect is the way. So he does not mean only viveka, because he is talking about to the qualified seeker. He is not talking to the layman, who is not talking to the beginner in the first chapter. So that is why he reminds us Viveka Khyatir Viplava Hanupaya. So qualified seeker instantly recalls Viveka, discernment, applied Viveka, dispassion, applied dispassion, six inner treasures. Oh, you are right. I feel lot of relaxation and calmness even when I do the fourfold practices. So your intellect says, Patanjali, you are right. Because my experience proves it right. And I have an intense desire and aspiration for liberation. And you are right, so it means I have to totally absorb myself into the highest state of meditation. Where we started. We started with four fundamental. What is suffering, cause of suffering, absence of suffering, the means and method to bring an end to the suffering. And then one verse completes everything. Yogaschattavratti nirodha. No, no, I don't agree with you. So we follow the different sutras written by Patanjali in different chapters. So we collected Heyam Dukham Anagatam. You can end the suffering. What is that? Cause of the suffering. The cause is identification of the seer and the seen. Drashtadrashtayo sanyogo heya hetu. But he stresses this identification because of avidya, tasya hetur avidya. So every master aligns with the same principle. For you say for noble truth, you say heya hetu han hano paya. Whatever you say. And then what is the meaning? What are the means? Let us separate it. So, but how to separate it? Vivek khyatir viplava hanopaya. So when he says Vivek khyati, khyati means you become totally famous. That is a literal meaning. Khyati. Now, how to make the Viveka famous, totally famous in every cell of your body, in every thought of your mind, in every wisdom in your intellect? That is the meaning. So it means that is the entire process. So we are understanding the second chapter because we understood in the first chapter that in the first chapter of our book that Patanjali has written the first chapter and named it as Samadhi Pada. He jumped directly into the huh? eighth of the eightfold, eight-limbed path of yoga. He said, I'm not talking of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. I'm talking of samadhi. To whom? To a seeker. So that word seeker is hidden as a message when he says atha. So it means I must understand if I want to follow the practices written in the first chapter of Patanjali, I must be clear what it means to become a qualified seeker. That has brought us to the second chapter. So we started with reference to four fundamentals. But even how these four fundamentals takes birth in my mind, that is the fifth point of this chapter, four connections, or you can say preliminary considerations to start the journey. Do I know the goal of my life clearly? 100%? Is there a clarity and a conviction? Do I know the subject matter of the Eastern wisdom? Yes. Do I know the result? I know the result. So, how to connect I as a qualified seeker with the subject matter aspiring for the result? When that is 100% clear in my mind, what will happen on the path? A ramp comes, I'm not taking a ramp on a highway. I follow the highway only. So I can prevent myself wasting my time in moving in a wrong direction and then again taking the same highway. I have not written, so you can read. I think you can better express that. You see that, look at this from that point of view. If you look at the four connections, a qualified seeker, the subject matter, the goal, and connecting all the three above with the knowledge and practice of Eastern wisdom. Just ask a question: for whom the Eastern wisdom is, or who is eligible for knowledge and practice in the Eastern wisdom? Answer that question. A person should be a qualified seeker. If I don't know the terms, what H stands for, what O stands for, I cannot understand chemistry. For whom the Eastern wisdom is, who is eligible? A person should be a qualified seeker. That is briefly explained in the first and now in the current chapter. The Master clearly states that Eastern wisdom can be approached by anyone after becoming a seeker. That is a very important point. I think you should explain it much better. Normally, that I have given an example that in the world, you go to a school, I want to study, I want to be a doctor. What you have done? I have studied art. No, you are not eligible. So, eligible and not eligible in the world outside is different from being eligible and not eligible in the Eastern wisdom. Anyone can become eligible provided you follow these principles. At present, you are not eligible. You can become a qualified seeker. That is the big difference. So, the first point is qualified seeker. What is the second point? Is the subject matter. It means what? It means that what you are going to teach me. The knowledge of reality, your own true nature. Further, it can be explained as who am I? What is the world? What is the existence? What is suffering, cause, and the solution? How to live, work, and think and speak in the world to remain in that state of permanent peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. So the Master is asking again and again, are you clear about the subject matter? It brings an end to the suffering. Now, the subject matter is who the hell I am and who am I not. So once I have understood and I know the goal, that is the third point, what is the result of this study and the practice? Only twofold: end of suffering and awakening to my true nature. So if that is the goal, what will happen to the mind? By repeated contemplation and reflection. I'm citing one example. The mind was seeking pleasure in a particular food before I became a qualified seeker. Now, what is the result when I become a qualified seeker? I enjoy every food that comes on my table. I accept it. One example. Why I accept it? That from the duality, likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, and the karmani. So what I'm doing? I'm minimizing the impact of the vasanas, the sanskaras, the cycle of birth and death. No, you don't understand. Body needs that. Necessity is different than pleasure seeking. with the liking and disliking. A lot of things that we will understand later. Now we have covered the 3 points. Understand it clearly. There are 3 points mentioned above. The seeker of freedom receives the knowledge and the practices from Eastern wisdom, gets freedom from the mind or liberation. Is it clear? One need to contemplate again and again and again. When the mind is 100% clear, the intellect inspires you all the time. It needs too much of contemplation. So, what I said, why to study Yoga Sutra? Because it gives me the knowledge of reality. It also tells me how to drop and dissolve the wrong notion. It also tells me how to redefine my thinking pattern in daily life. See that. It is not that, no, I meditate. So I look at my members, my family, don't disturb. So every member of the family stares at you. Oh, this guy is going to meditate. My mind is still objectified. It will not work. That is why it is not working. One example. So, a real teacher teaches nothing that is not contained in the Eastern wisdom because principles cannot be changed. A teacher humbly submits to the seeker. That is also a part of four connection. That he never created any principle but personalizes the teaching to benefit the seeker. So now see the connection between the teacher and the taught is clearly defined. What is that definition? The seeker studies the Yoga Sutra, the book of knowledge that contains the knowledge of reality through the teacher who personalizes these practices. That is why it is known as there are only 3 points, and then 3 points are connected in a different ways that becomes the four connection. Is the seeker clear about it? The seeker is also aware and maintains that awareness. He goes through these sutra again and again and checks what the teacher has explained. Does it align with these sutras, or the teacher is teaching from his own whims and fancies? That will not work. That has not worked. Otherwise, by meditation, millions and millions of people would have been awakened until now. Now I simplified. No, you don't understand the four connection. Ask questions. What is the goal of life? What is the goal in life? What are the negative traits in my life? It means, it will examine your mind with the likes and dislikes. What are the positive traits in my life? What I think I am? Am I swayed by wrong notions? If yes, then what are those wrong notions? What is my answer intellectually? Who am I? What will happen if I attain the goal of life? Now understand it further. The first connection is qualify eligibility of a student to become a seeker. It means nobody is disqualified. You can become, make an effort, start the journey. In the case of this chapter of Patanjali, the qualification suggested is to understand mind, its subjective and objective states, and the cause of suffering. He has clearly mentioned Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. In a non meditative state, you will continue to suffer. Why thought pattern? Why thought pattern? Because of doing karma. From where the thought has come? Because of attachment and detachment. But why the hell attachment and detachment? Because of likes and dislikes. Why the likes and dislikes? Because of the duality. I perceive the dual nature of this world. But why I perceive like this if the self, one self pervades, present in all? Because I see the surface of the ocean, only the waves and the storm and the tsunami is seen. Even if it is the water is inside, I don't see it. I say it is a wave, it is a tsunami, it is a Katrina, it is Atlantic Ocean, it is Pacific Ocean. So Patanjali in the first chapter has a direct approach. Once we understand these principles, then we are amazed to see how Patanjali has written the first chapter. The second connection is the subject matter. Third connection is the goal or benefit. The fourth connection, how a student assimilates the knowledge from the Eastern wisdom and finds success in meditation. That brings us to Upaya, the method. The secret of success in mindfulness is to follow four steps. You need to correct that. I did not do that. What is the secret of success? What is the meaning of the success? Until I reach the goal. The goal is 50 miles away and I have covered 49 miles and I am tired, exhausted. My commitment has left me. I have not reached the goal. So this master, in another text, which is the Panchadashi, by thorough analysis and practice, means by same three principles that I have been, four principles or three principles I have been talking about. Shravan, listening and learning, contemplation and reflection, and regular practice with wisdom is required. Okay, but what exactly do you mean by the method? Method is known as upaya. We are going very deeper. Pay attention, upaya. The word upay, abhyas, sadhana, literally translated into English as practice. And that does not make any sense. Especially when we are a seeker. So, what is the first way? I have given three references. Upaya means a method, a means, or it also means approaching near. So, I like the approach of a Tantra tradition that has also been mentioned indirectly by the Patanjali. So, I thought it better to put it here. So, that Tantra tradition is known as Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism is very famous path that to Kaivalya, to Nirvana. So why I have written it, you will understand it. So they have four stages of so-called practices, and every stage has many practices. So the first stage of the practice, the beginners, you can say. Normally, sometimes people translate Anuvo Upaya as it's a wasting your time, but it has to be done to become a qualified seeker to start the journey of mindfulness or meditation. So, what happens in this step? The seeker raises his awareness through a regular practice of mantra, karmala practice. I did it for 5, 6 years regularly. The time came when the thumb are still, thumb still moves like this. Any moment it starts moving and it reminds me. So you have to change that pattern. So there are many mantras Patanjali has referred. Pranayama, according to Patanjali, not according to Hatha Yoga, not Kapal Bhati or Bhastrika, according to the way Patanjali explains pranayama and beginner's meditation. The Kriya Yoga in the second chapter may be termed as the first stage. Beginners. So there are in the beginner stage, there are many practices. I was just before you, I had one seeker from Europe, so I labeled that practice as a purification, balance, awakening. I gave the mantra, I gave a different type of the breathing steps, then I combine all of them. Then I said how to balance, move the mind deeper within. So there are hundreds of practices. The second stage is Shaktopaya. What is Shaktopaya? Shakta means power. So after understanding clearly that knowledge is definitely settled in you, the teacher gives you, you can say, higher practices than the first stage. But there is a beauty explained in the Tantra tradition that makes many sutras clear of Patanjali. So what that this stage says, are you saying Om Namah Shivaya? Hold on, before saying another Om Namah Shivaya, see the space between the two Om Namah Shivaya. And as you progress further, you see there is a space below Om Namah Shivaya also. One way to understand that nature of this meditation. So it means you are withdrawing the mind from any active steps. Because as long as the mind continues any active steps in meditation, it is a part of karma. And karma is always defective. That defect comes from attachment and detachment. So there is every chance that the mind will fall into ignorance. Mind will fall into ignorance. It's a beautifully explained by the Tantra in a different way. Patanjali has explained in the first sutra, first chapter. Then comes the third one, Sambhavopaya. In Hatha Yoga, we study Sambhavi Mudra. So it has come from this tradition of a third stage of higher meditation, where we get a state of thoughtlessness, objectless state of the mind. Again, the practices are very subtle, deeper. What is the fourth state? Fourth state is just what the Buddha says, mind, emptiness, nothingness. It is an objectless state. So this is one way to understand the entire journey of the first chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. What is the fourth step of Patanjali? It is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He mentions it. So that is one upaya. Now, if you are a highest level of a seeker, then that approach is definitely good for you. But if you are lower level of a seeker, not that high, the middle level of a seeker, then you have to follow the second upaya, number 2, which includes what? That includes seva, service, means outer form of service with maintaining the inner calm to drop and dissolve that ego, which is one of the 5 kleshas according to Patanjali. That is why in Kriya Yoga, what he says, tapah swadhyay ishwar pranidhanani kriya yoga. And he mentioned it in the second chapter. It means what? But that is not the highest practice. But still, we can follow the first chapter if we follow these 4 steps. So the master teaches us how to perform a seva. Not, I donated, I did this service, social service. No. That is different than this kind of a service, or what we say the karma yoga. Now the second is known as upasadhana. Upasadhana means the sub-practice. So now you start withdrawing from the world outside to inside. You are still in doing the service, you are still performing the karma, but still you understand. So you are trying to bring it inside. So the mind moves inside. Then the third is known as the sadhana. As we do the sadhana, we follow the different steps of, as explained by Patanjali, with a minimum effort, because I am a seeker. And the last stage of meditation is known as Mahasadhana, whereas objectless state is achieved in by Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now we are going to the third upaya, the third method that I have explained hundreds of times. Shravan, listening, learning from a teacher, the principles, manan, contemplation and reflection, nididhyasana, regular practice with wisdom. So in a very simplified manner, it is only a first step of Shravana. When I say I don't know, let me know it. Okay, let us know it. Let us know the principle. But what is more important? We succeed in the first step when we can record the principle in the mind and can repeat it as it is. Yogaschitta vritti nirodha, all the 4 fundamentals flashes into my mind. Atha yoga anushashanam, qualified seeker, and the beginning of the yoga from A to G, it flashes into my mind. Principle as it is. Second is I don't understand, let me understand it. So I ask questions. Why should I accept the principle? But first, be very clear about the principle. Then I start asking the questions, removing the doubt and the confusion to clear my mind, to have a clarity and conviction in the intellect. The doubt is no more left. Second step. The third is what is written, you check it, and then you can write in your third is nididhyasana. I understand, but I don't experience it, so I need to practice it. What practice is suitable for me? The teacher tells you. Or you can also tell yourself. By understanding, are you a qualified seeker at the highest level, supreme seeker, middle level of the seeker? The last two level doesn't fit. Still, we can say seeker, they also continue. So, based on the level of your stage of your being a seeker, the practices and the principles will vary. And the fourth is, now I hold on that state of my change so that I reach to the stage of awakening, liberation, kaivalya. Now go understand it intellectually, little deeper stage. Only the second stage of I have covered in these three steps. So, what exactly the first step means? Literal meaning is listening in the context of subjective reality. Again, second statement is also very important. It conveys the essential purpose of teaching, that we are all one and only one essential reality. So there is a six signs. Now we need to contemplate. There are six signs of true listening. What are they? Beginning and the conclusion is explained clearly. Repeated declaration, yogaschitta vritti nirodha. Did you understand? So the teacher is asking again and again. That is why the repetition is required. You had a doubt and a question, that why I repeat it. But that is the process. Beginning and the conclusion, first point. Repeated declaration, second point. Uniqueness. What is the uniqueness in that principle? Result and application, eulogy and reasoning. And it takes time. In the manan, but why repeated declaration? Why repeated declaration? Why uniqueness is there? Because if there is a uniqueness, and the mind with the existing thought pattern will compare and contrast and will accept it easily. And once the teacher inspires through the principles about the result and application, what is going to happen? You have a simple commitment. Eulogy. Why? That is needs to be done through the reasoning, so that the mind that is totally inward in ignorance can break its knots from the ignorance and can start progressing. There are five or six steps of Shravanam and Mananam. Manan. Now, what is Manan? The first step brings an intellectual determination, and the second step takes us to firm conviction in the mind and create a doubt free intellect. That is why we need to. My master used to say that, have you heard me for 1 hour? Yes, master. Really? How many times your mind was wandering? So calculate how many minutes you heard. So if you have heard me only 10 minutes, multiplied by 8 times, Manan should be done. 80 minutes. 1 hour, 8 hours. 9 hours, 8 to 9 hours. Third is Nididhyasan. What is Nididhyasan? Means regular practice. As I have already explained, it has to be done regular practice with wisdom. So, what happens once the first two steps are clear? In the third stage, I did the practice. Today, I have a different experience. Tomorrow, I have a different experience. Third day, I jump into a higher stage. So I gather all those experiences that helps the teacher to personalize the experience. And the samadhi that we have already explained, the ultimate stays. Now I have given one reference from the Shankaracharya, the great master. It's a beautiful way to inspire the mind. The contemplation is 100 times superior to listening. But if I don't listen, what to contemplate? So it does not mean, oh, let me jump into contemplation. On what? On my pleasure seeking mind. So I'll become more crazy and obsessed with those pleasures. So we have to be very clear. The contemplation is 100 times superior to listening. Because contemplation is 100 times superior to listening, so I have to pay more attention. 1 hour of listening, 8 hours of contemplation. The meditation or tharlin means practice is 100 times superior to reflection. But if I did not do the manan, that becomes the preparatory steps of any mindfulness or meditation. I have not done it. No, let me sit, I was in a hurry. I have reached, the mind is still working outside. No manan, no clarity. Let me close. Oh, no, it will not work. So I'm responsible for my success and I'm responsible for my failure. What the teacher has to do. The nirvikalp, and the nirvikalp means the highest state of meditation, samadhi, is infinitely superior to the nididhyasana, the third step. I did not prevent myself to refer the great master, Raman Maharshi, who has explained so beautifully the 4 steps. Let me repeat it. By Shravana, the knowledge dawns. That is the flame. By the second step, Manan, the knowledge is not allowed to vanish. How beautifully. Now think and contemplate. Remember this. Just as the flame is protected by a wind screen, so the other thoughts are not allowed to overwhelm the right knowledge. Contemplation is finished. By nididhyasana, by the regular practice with wisdom, the flame is kept up to burn bright by trimming the wick. Whenever other thoughts arise, what should we do? Now I have done a successful contemplation, so I can move the mind within, bring it on the principle. So I'm just, trimming the wick. The mind is turned inward to the light of the true knowledge. So in samadhi, when this becomes natural, it is samadhi. The inquiry, who am I? Now he explains further briefly. It is such a beautiful way to present. We can understand the height of his enlightenment and awakening. Inquiry, who am I, is Shravanam, first step. The ascertainment of the true import of I is Manan. Now I know who am I. Even I have not realized all the time. So the intellect will order the mind to behave in the same way. There will be a calm and relax and peace and happiness. Even if I fight, so I fight with happiness. That is the way I have to play my role in the world. So the practical application on each occasion is nidhyasana, means living in mindfulness all the time. And being as I is samadhi. That is the journey explained by our master Patanjali. So now there is a clarity of understanding. So how much time it will take me to a seeker, no matter how much time it will take me to become a seeker, I have to become a seeker. So now see, when one reaches to the fourth state, what Raman Maharshi says, what is the last stage? Being I. Being I is Samadhi. So what Buddha has said, when a academic scholar asked him, Master, are you a god? No Brahmin, Brahmin in those days, academic scholars. I'm not a god. Are you Gandharva? It's a Sanskrit word. Means, are you a heavenly being? We talk of angels. No, I'm not. Yaksha, natural spirits, usually good spirits, who are caretakers of natural treasures hidden in the earth and the tree roots. That is known as yakshas. Are you a yaksha? No, I am not. A human being? No, Brahmin, I am not a human being. Then what sort of a being are you? Remember me, Brahmin. I am awakened. No, I'm awakened. Existence. The highest state of mindfulness. Now, if we have understood clearly what Buddha says, and now intellectually understand what Patanjali says in the third sutra, what happens when we yoga chittavritti nirodha? It is the same thing. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Same thing happens. Expression is different. Tada drashtu. What happens, let me empty all the stuff. Now see the biggest confusion, what happens? As if I'm emptying the mind in order to create my true nature so that I can realize. No, we are emptying the mind because the mind is full of ignorance. Once it drops the ignorance, reflects in the true wisdom in a deeper meditation, I face to face with my true nature. The self shines with the self alone. Direct knowledge. What is direct knowledge? Is darshan. What is direct knowledge? Is darshan. Perhaps the two more things. Let me cover briefly, and you can read it and edit it. The mindfulness state expresses love for the sake of love. So I borrowed it from this verse from Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya also belonged to my native state. You see, the ego works. But it's a refine, it doesn't create any problem. Yajnavalkya was a great master. He had two wives. And the long story short that he left uh, the wealth, divided all his wealth into two parts and gave to two wives. And he said, "No, I'm going." The first wife said, "No, how can you go? Where are you going? You are the chief minister, chief advisor in the kingdom of this great king who has given you all the pleasures of the world. Are you not happy?" "No, I need." So, what the first wife did, first wife uh, gave the entire wealth to the second wife. And the second wife was very happy. At least I got everything. That happens in our life, day to day life. In the world outside, we see a lot of problems among the family members. So Yajnavalkya said, "Why you did it? Now I will go with you. I think you are such a wise person. You are going for some greater achievement, and I'm ready to follow your path. You have left everything. That surprised me. So it means, and you are not a fool, you are a wise." So at that moment, Yajnavalkya gives this message to his wife. What he says, "Verily, not for the sake of husband, my dear, is the husband loved, but he is loved for the sake of the self." Let me make it clear. The parents have $1 billion. So by default, son knows it. So son always obeys all the commands. Even if the parents are crazy, okay, let them be crazy. How long they are going to live? Ultimately, I will inherit all the properties. Let us tolerate. So the son loves his parents too much. That is totally expressed in the society. One day the son returns from the work. Parents say, "Come and sit with me, my dear son. I know you love me. You are capable. So I have donated the entire wealth to a not profit organization." From the second day, the son starts hating his parents. Why? Because I love anyone only for the sake of myself. I love Eastern wisdom for the sake of myself. I love to talk of meditation only for the sake of myself. Can we understand? Not for the sake of the wife, my dear, is the wife loved, but she is loved for the sake of the self. It does not mean if someone expresses love towards us and we start hating them. That is not the right approach. That sadhana, ultimately sadhana helps us to understand that. So what he says, Yajnavalkya, to his wife, you see the verse I have written. The self, my dear, Maitreyi is the name of the wife of Yajnavalkya. The self, my dear Maitreyi, should be realized, should be heard of, reflected on, and meditated upon by the realization of the self, my dear. He is still addressing to his wife, my dear, my honey. Through hearing, reflection, and meditation, then everything is known. So I have to play my role, perform my role outside. That is one way to express. And the second, I see the same self in you, then why should not I love you? But not I love you for my selfish end. Like the son, he started hating his parents who donated his entire wealth to a charity. My son, you are already capable. Come on. You can earn. But he was loving until he knew the wealth was inherited to the son. And that is what is happening in the world. That is what is happening in the world. A couple of the points in this. I will cover the 10th and the last two or three. You just look at it, whether it is required to be placed in this chapter or not in this book. The 10th is, O mind, who are you? My master's favorite text is Avdhuta Gita. He himself was Avdhuta. His name, last surname was Avdhuta. So this verse is from the what is mind? Yogaschitta vritti nirodha chitta. You are the cause of suffering. So let me know who the hell you are, my mind. So in Avdhut Gita, the great master Dattatreya answers, Manovai gaganakaram, Manovai sarvato mukham, Manotitam manah sarvam manah paramarthata. Manovai gaganakaram. Now look at the beauty of this master. He says the mind indeed is of the form of the space is infinite. So with that awareness, you praise the mind. Why? You are never tired with influx of the thoughts at any moment. So from that, I can conclude that you are infinite, like the space. And my mind, you have many faces. You are aware of the air conditioning noise. You are aware of what the dog is doing. You are aware that what you are listening, how much you are listening, how many thoughts are interfering. You have multi faces. You're omni-faced. You are naturally doing multitasking. Why to say that I'm capable of multitasking? We use the word multitasking. Mano vai sarvato mukham. Am I not aware that I'm sitting on the chair? Am I not aware that I'm looking at you all and guiding and teaching and talking to you? And then he says, the mind is the past. Manotitam. And now he says, but in reality, there is no mind. Gone contemplation, contemplation, contemplation and reflection. You reach to a conclusion there is no mind. In reality, in the highest realization, there is no mind. If we solve this puzzle, we have completed all the stages of our Samadhi Pada. But these are the ways to enlighten our mind by applying these principles so that we become a seeker. I have not covered those fourfold practices, I have left it. But actually, one need to do it. So once you become a seeker, the seeker always succeeds. Satasangatve nisasangatvam, nisasangatve nirmohatvam. Do you still remember the chain of the avidya, the ignorance, the duality, likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, karma? Body is created, I'm the body. So now what the master is saying, living with the masters and learning from them drops the identification with the people, place, possession. Why he says, if you only drop the identification of the body, then only you can drop the identification with the people, place, and the possession. Satasangatve, nisasangatvam, nisasangatve, nirmohatvam. The de-identification from the world outside leads to the right knowledge. Nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nishchaltatvam. So once you know that, you have broken that identification where the mind is, now the mind lives with you. So when the mind lives with you, what happens? What I guide, being comfortable, being carefree, being casual, experience, sensation, relaxation, and stillness. Do you see that? From where those words have come in my different steps and different practices of meditation. From this verse, Nirmohatve Nishchal Tattvam, Nishchal Tattve Jivan Mukti. And when the mind is made totally still and it is moving inside, what happens? Freedom, liberation. Nishchal Tattve Jivan Muktim. Another beautiful verse. Another beautiful verse from our one great master who has written the most famous book, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam.